Can I share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
We can see a screen.
All right. Just a minute. All right. You can hear me?
Yes, Dr. Beda, we can hear you clearly.
All right. So as you heard, my name is Beda Olabu, and I'm a lecturer at Department of Human Anatomy, University of Nairobi. I am also a resident. I'm in my 4th year. I hope I'm going to graduate this year. I'm doing diagnostic radiology in my residency. Well, maybe we've also met with some of you in other colleges where I am a part-time lecturer. So maybe you've met in KU, maybe you met in MKU some time back. I don't know which other medical school is around, but maybe we met. It's fine. It's still the same face you're seeing. Today, we are not going to talk about anatomy, but we're going to talk about research. Now, this is what I'm going to do in the, I hope to take about 20 to 30 minutes of your time. And in that duration of time, we are going to look at definition of research. We are going to look at components of scientific research. Those are general, but I think something that's more customized to you will be to look at importance of scientific research for you as an undergraduate student. We're also going to look at common challenges that are faced by undergraduate students in research. And not just mention challenges, but also to offer some solutions. I may not offer solutions to all of them, but there are some solutions that can be suggestions to you as well in terms of overcoming the challenges. I'll run through a few misconceptions that students have about research, and then finally, I'll talk about some practical ways in which you can engage in scientific research. So we begin with defining what research is. Yes, as just told us, that can be as simple as just Googling something. That is true. Generally, we define scientific research as a systematic way of doing things. And usually it's a systematic work that you undertake to create or increase the stock of knowledge that is available regarding a particular subject matter. For example, on the example he gave about enzymes or some prevalence of lung cancer. If you know that there is lung cancer, but you don't know which age group are actually affected by lung cancer, you can actually undertake a research to find out. So what is the prevalence of lung cancer? When COVID started, there was that connotation that it was only affecting the white, that it won't affect the Africans. Now you can do a research and find out the prevalence of COVID in Black Kenyan population. You can do research to find out, okay, does it affect children? How many children are affected? So usually in most cases, you'll find that there are some misconceptions in a particular area, and those are the ones that you want to drive attention to. The overall main purpose of scientific research is usually to inform the direction of action. For example, if there is malaria, for example, and there's a particular drug that needs to be tested. So maybe you try a particular therapy. Some people use AL, some people use, let's say, artemisinin derivatives. Then some people use another new drug. So you want to see some outcomes if this drug B or drug A that you've come up with seems to give a better outcome of malaria, sorry, a better outcome from people suffering from malaria, then you can actually propose that to the public. Then it informs the new direction of action in terms of management of malaria. So usually the main purpose is to inform direction of action. Now, what are the key components of scientific research? You will hear of many components of scientific research. Some people will give you a list of even 11, 12 components of scientific research. That's okay. They're still real. But I've chosen to summarize this into 3 major components. And the first major component of scientific research is what I call the research question or the study question. And basically, this refers to what you want to study. For example, you want to study the prevalence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in under 5 in Kenya. Children who are under 5, what's the prevalence? You want to study that one. So that becomes the study question. And usually study questions will be informed by some things we've known in the past. For example, the original information that was coming before this started was that it is only affecting the older population. So you want to find out, does it really affect children? And if it does, how many children are affected? So research question is exactly what you want to study. As a medical student, it is also important also to just not keep to what you want to study, but you also ask yourself why you want to study that particular subject matter. And that's what I call the relevance of the study. What is the importance of that study? What information is this study going to add to the body of knowledge? And perhaps, so how is it going to affect management of our patients? That's the relevance of the study. So you can argue out and say, okay, so if you find that this infection affects even children, then fine. In terms of policy, you would advise that hospitals, when they are setting up ICU beds for adults, they also set up for children because we've confirmed it actually affects children. If you find out that doesn't affect any child at all, then you inform the ministry that now when you are, or the counties, when you are establishing those 300 beds per county, don't bother about pediatric beds because there'll be nobody who will use them. Those are kind of things we're talking about. The why of the study need to come out clearly. And the third part of the study is what I call the how of the study. How do you want to carry out that study? That's what we call study methodology. These are very important components of study. And usually, if you get the method wrong, your results become invalid. If you get the method right, your results may become valid. So the methodology of the study is a very important factor. For example, let's forget about medical career, but let's think about something the public. So you wonder whether there's a particular type of car in Kenya, for example, and the prevalence of such a car in Kenya. That is your study question. Maybe you want to know whether you need to be importing such cars. Maybe that's your why. Maybe you've been hired by that company to find out the need assessment. So let's pick any car. Let's pick, let's say it's one of the Land Rover Discovery. So you want to find out the prevalence of Land Rover Discovery in Kenya. If you go and sit under a tree somewhere in Siaya, You may wait a whole year without seeing any car of that sort. Then you'll say that car is not in Kenya. It's a wrong method you've used, and so the results become invalid. But you can also say, okay, I'll be standing somewhere in the roundabout near Westlands. You can actually count quite a number there. So the methodology of the study is very important because it will be the one that will be checking. And then through that methodology, you'll be saying, okay, there is something valid here, or there is something, this is invalid. So these are the three key components of a scientific research. There are others. I have a feeling they usually fall within these three in one way or another. Someone will tell you what your hypothesis, what all those fall within one of these. Right. So what is the importance of scientific research to you as an undergraduate student? I've tried to make this be customized to you as opposed to maybe lecturers or other people in corporate world. I just want to focus it to you. Research really increases your capacity for critical thinking. Very important part of you, even as a student. When I started research, I realized that how I think through issues actually changed just because of having that template of what exactly is it and why is it important and how do I want to meet this. Learning to go through the what, the why, and the how has made me to even extend that in my interactions with people. You come talk to me, I want to get the exact issue that you are articulating to me first. So you may have used many words, but at the end of the day, I ask myself, what has he told me? What has she told me? And through that, I'm able to think through solutions. So research really promotes critical thinking. Research is also becoming what I usually call, or someone actually coined for me some time back, a currency of exchange. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When you do research and you have publications, that publication is on your CV, and actually a permanent one for that matter. We are going to a world where we'll be asked, so who are you? Okay, what have you done? So you'll say, I've done MBCHB at whichever university you come from. Then you'll realize that maybe it's an application you're making for scholarship or for a particular job opportunity. You'll realize that maybe you've applied like 100 people. All of you have MBCHB. So they want to evaluate you on what else do you have? And more often, this question will come. You'll be asked, and what else? So if, let's say, 100 people have applied for that particular scholarship, that particular job opportunity, that's very lucrative, then only 5 people have done some research. In most cases, you'll take the people with research. It's not the only parameter, I agree, but it's one of those emerging key parameters that your employer will find out that whoever is taking you for that scholarship position will check to find out whether you have done. And so it will be your selling point in a way. And I usually tell people, and I'll repeat here, right now we have very many medical schools in Kenya, and that's a good thing for the country. We also have people who study medicine from outside and they come to Kenya, and that's still a good thing for the country. Now, what that means is that the number of people graduating as doctors in any given year at this time is more than actually 600 for the country, more than 700 maybe. So there's a time that will be more than 1,000. Maybe it is right now, I'm not sure. And so the key question is, what puts you on a different level compared to anyone else who has graduated that particular year? It could be you are good in sports. It could be you're good in public speaking. You've done some management. You have an MBA. All those are good. Now add to those things also that you have publications. And it's a sweet thing to just say, when I was in third year medical studying medicine, I did this and this, and this is a publication. That one blows many people and actually makes you stand out. The other importance of scientific research is networking. You will realize that not everyone is in research, but you've also realized that important people are in research. The people who are likely to change direction of your work, to change direction of your career, to give you some platform for you to just rise up the ladder. Those people, you can easily get them in the research world because they're there. The people who give funding, you find them in research. Those big professors with big titles, they have done research most of the time. That's why they have those titles. And they're able to give you particular network. So that network, I consider it very important. When you attend scientific conferences, you interact with people who are going to give you ideas of what they have done or what you can do. Those are very important. And I can name very many people whom I have interacted with because of research. Another important thing is that now, with the fact that internet is worldwide, when you do your research with the hope that you're not just going to collect data and leave it there, you're going to publish. That publication is worldwide. It's in the internet. So someone will be finding out, okay, so who is this Yas? Who is this Nyambura? Who is this Josephine? They'll be seeing you on internet even without knowing you. It gives you that universal recognition, which is very important. Also, last but not least, I think I like the fact that the world is moving towards evidence-based medical practice. When you say, I gave this drug, your patient will ask you why. Maybe your colleagues will ask you why. Perhaps you'll ask yourself why. It is becoming evidence-based medicine. That evidence can only be provided by research. You don't just give evidence without research. So those are very important aspects of scientific research for a medical student. I put that last one there with asterisk because I don't really consider it key. And you're also not so assured of it many times. But perhaps it's very important for you as a student. There's some research opportunities that when you participate in, maybe there's something small for your pocket to push you for the next 1 month or so. And perhaps that's a good thing for you to hear at your level, that yes, when you engage in research, in some research, you can get something small financially to keep you going. And I know you really, really need that as a student. Great. So what are some of the common challenges and hindrances that are faced by undergraduate students in research? I think one of the things that I've come to realize, and that's why I'm putting it as number one here, is just having a low self-esteem. Most of students don't engage in research because they just feel like they don't have what it takes. And that's a very wrong attitude, I think. If you've actually passed your way in primary school, you passed your way in high school, you've been passing your way through medical school, and you are going to become a doctor, then I know you definitely have more than what it takes to participate in research. The demand to become a doctor is hey, I almost said something that someone said one day. The demand to become a doctor is so high compared to that demand of just participating in a research. Even 10 times, even 100 times, the demand of becoming a doctor is so high compared to that demand of participating in research. What you need to become a doctor is higher than what you need to actually participate in research. And that's why research can be done by many people, but not many people can become doctors. So you need to believe in yourself that you can make it. Also tied to that is just having a wrong attitude. For example, if I ask you right now, what is research? And what are some of the problems in research? You can actually list quite a number without even evidence. Because by default, you're on a wrong pedestal with regard to your attitude towards research. You just think it's for some people, not for you. You just think it's a waste of time. Perhaps you've seen some people who participate in research and there's some negative outcomes. And so you associate that with research. It's just a wrong attitude. Also, importantly, is that students tend to have a lot of misunderstanding with regard to terms used in research and even the process of research itself. Maybe you've attended your epidemiology lectures for those who have reached those levels, and you had some terms like hypothesis testing, and you're wondering, what are all these? Oh, Maran-Null hypothesis, okay, type 1 error, type 2 error, and you're wondering, all that, if you didn't understand type 2 error in class, are you going to apply it in research? It's just that misunderstanding that people have about the terminologies. You didn't get the term right, and so you think it's just hard. Or you don't understand, so if I want to participate in research, what should I do first? So you don't understand the process, and that makes it just feel like it's not for me. Well, we'll not lie about it. The resources are always limited anywhere. A resource that's not limited, it's very difficult to find resources which are not limited. And so there's some limited resources with regard to research, things like your time. You are a medical student, you're supposed to be reading, pathology is waiting for you, anatomy is waiting for you, IMED is waiting for you. You've never understood the classification of SLE. Why are you going to talk about research? So you feel like you don't have time for it. You feel like you don't have the money to do some of them. Some of them will require a lot of money, but you don't have it, maybe. And maybe you don't have the expertise to interpret some things. Maybe you want to find out how this particular drug affects neurotransmission, but you don't have the expertise to understand how action potentials can be measured. So you may have limited resources, that's true. And that one I agree, actually limited resources. I will be talking about some of those solutions in the next slide. The other challenge could be just past experiences. Maybe you participated in one before and it flopped. Or you saw someone who participated in one and it didn't go through. Or maybe you actually did participate in one and it was so demanding, you don't want to repeat that again. It could be possible. It could be a hindrance. I put that last one there with the asterisk again because it could be a barrier, but maybe you may not have so much to do with its solution. When it is institutional, it's about the policy. Maybe, like I know in our university, research is not the primary thing in the course. You go to some universities and it's part of the course. So I call that an institutional barrier because the institution has not provided the platform for you to participate in research. You go to some universities and these things about research is actually taught from first year. You actually have a project and you submit something research-based. Some of them actually you publish. Undergraduate we're talking about, we're not talking about masters. So maybe in the institution you're in, and I know Nairobi University is one of them, there is nothing within the curriculum that pushes you to publish a particular research work. Maybe in community health, there's something that stimulates your understanding about research, and maybe you participate to some extent in collecting some data in the community, but perhaps just ends there. You don't go beyond that. And we know what some people do. You don't even actually do it. You decide to cook the data. And so because the institution has not provided that particular platform, you may not have those avenues of participating. I am calling it a barrier because it doesn't open up your mind to the fact that that is an option. But what are some of the solutions? I think the solution to just your lower self-esteem is believing in yourself. And I've told you, if you can hack medicine, you can hack research. But it's also important to take time to learn more about research. Like, I think I like this platform right now that some of you are hearing about research and what you can do. It's very important, learning more about research. You can also learn about research in other platforms, and I'll be suggesting to you some when I talk about practical ways in which you can engage. But it's important that you learn more about research so that you clear those misconceptions that you have. There are those ones which have financial implication. So it's not just adequate to say, I don't have the money to participate in this research. You can actually choose research projects that don't actually require you to pay anything. You can choose research projects that are low cost. For example, someone has told you about me having conducted research on the prevalence and distribution of the third coronary artery in the Kenyan population. I was in third year medical student when I published that. What did it cost me? Maybe 500 shillings only to get ethical approval for that research project. That time it was costing 500 shillings. That's the only thing it costed me. Okay, if you want to itemize the cost of moving from one place to another, maybe you can add that, and the cost of maybe printing some things, you can do that. But remember, that was also part of maybe schooling. However, if it was just for publication, maybe it could have costed less because I would have just gone to the Department of Human Anatomy, and that's where I collect my data. After that, I don't have to print many things to submit to someone. I just need to do the article, the basic article that is required, and send for publication. It could have even costed less than that. So what I'm trying to say is that in as much as research can be expensive, you can choose research which have low cost and they're still there. You can choose them. Then as you grow financially, if you have money, it's okay to engage. It's okay to actually invest in them. I've told you research is becoming a currency for you. And so it's worth investing in it, I believe. But of course, you invest wisely. So big research project that will require millions of money, you can do them later. You can also ask for funding if you get that opportunity and you have the avenues. For now, you can actually choose those ones that don't require a lot of money. With regard to research taking a lot of time, I know it's true. But you can also blend, one of the ways that you can actually blend your research project with your studies. Let's say you are in 4th year and now I've forgotten which units are done in 4th year, but let me just use that as an example. So let's say in 4th year and you're wondering, you're wondering about the efficacy of a particular drug in the management of pneumonia in children. So while you're in Kenyatta or whichever hospital you're in, you can actually see those children who come with pneumonia and the antibiotic they were given, compare that with the ones who are given the other antibiotic, and follow them over time. See, how long do they stay in the hospital? When they improve, how fast do they improve? What are the symptoms? Remember, that's the same time that you're studying pediatrics. It will still help you to understand management of pneumonia in children either way. So you blended the research with your studies. If you're in 1st year, let's say you're dissecting the thorax, at the same time you can actually find out the pattern of blood supply to the heart. So it is still part of your study, but you've blended that with the research. You'll not feel like it has wasted your time. Now, I find teamwork a very invaluable aspect of research, and I'll tell you how. When you engage in teamwork in research with the people who complement what you do, it's very important. For example, let's say we are 4. I am good in reading, very bad in writing. Someone else is very energetic. He can actually, or she can actually collect data even at night. So if you are a team where people utilize their talents, again, in different ways. So the one who is very good in writing will write. The one who is good in collecting data will collect physical work. No problem. The one who is good with PR things will take it to ethics, will follow up. And if you want advice from a senior colleague, the one who has good rapport with those senior colleagues can actually do that. That teamwork is very important. It complements you so that it even covers your limitations, for example. And it's not just complementing to even cover your limitations. It also helps you in terms of the numbers. And this is how I'll give you an example. For example, you are a team of 4 again. You agree that each of us come up with one research topic. So you do that. So someone come up with a particular title, another one. So you have 4 research questions. Then you say you will be the primary lead in the research question that you've come up with. So that person becomes the primary lead in the research topic. But the other people will be co-authors in the research project that you've come up with. And let's say you are going to publish it within 3 months. You are going to do that research project within 3 months. So my research project, where I am the primary person, I begin it, I run it. Of course, I share the ideas with the other people and they help me where they can. In 3 months' time, I will have finished the research project and have a publication. The other person, again, if you work as a team, it means that at the end of those 3 months, I don't just have one publication, but I have 4 publications with my name. I am primary in one, yes, but I'm co-authors in the other 3. So this teamwork helps all of us. And this is why I want to also insist on something that I see in our undergraduate training, which is not very helpful. In medical training, you don't win by the failure of your opponent. You don't have opponents. This is not like politics, where if my competitor fails on something, then I've won. This is not politics. In medical training, the more we are, the better. And the more we learn the right thing, the better for all of us. If you get your 90%, it's okay, get your 90%. But don't pray that I get 40% so that you become right. No, you don't win by my failure. You win by your victory. You don't win by my failure. So if we are a group of 4 and you agree that you'll operate as a group in working out, in participating in research work, when you've done one research activity, you've published it. That's a very good thing. When you see that your colleagues have not participated in any research, that shouldn't be your point of rejoicing. As a matter of fact, if they're your friends, it's better if you work together. And so I find teamwork a very important aspect. It also helps you when you're weak. Some people lift you up. It also helps when, let's say, those 4, on practical ground, you may not publish it in 3 months, all of them. You may just have success in publishing 2 of them, maybe in 3 months. But you see, it's still beneficial and still encourages you. If you have 4, you had 4 projects and only 2 were published within 3 months, they're still with your names. As opposed to if you are alone and you tried and the one you tried is the one that failed. By the end of 3 months, you don't have anything. So this teamwork helps in even encouraging you in research, because there'll be some failures at some point. But when you are as a team, you're stronger. You can also choose to utilize a viable human resource. There are people who know how to do some of these things. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to come ask me. And I know there's many students that I usually even just mentor in research, and some of them I know are here, where they come up with the research topic and then they ask you whether it's viable. So I usually ask them those 3 questions. What is it you want to study? Why do you want to study it? How do you want to study it? Once I've gone through those 3 and I've felt it's okay, then I tell them, there, you're good. So just adjust this and this, just small details. It is okay to utilize a valuable human resource that you don't have to pay. And your lecturers are actually available for that. Your friends who are senior are available for that. It's important to set goals if you're going to participate in research. This will help you to overcome that narrative that is too busy, it takes a lot of time. It will also help you overcome the narrative of not doing something over a long period of time. You can decide at the end of every year, I want to have 2 publications on my name. You can decide it's 1 publication at the end of the year. It's fine, it's okay. You don't have to set higher goals at this point in time, because you have to be realistic anyway. If you are in session, you'll be busy definitely. You may not get enough time to just look at this thing. every other time. So it's okay. And I think for me, if an undergraduate student sets a goal that at the end of the year, they must have at least one publication, for me, that's a very good goal to set. Maybe as you climb up in the ladder, you'll be saying 2 publications, 3 publications, and so on. You've heard that I have over 70 publications. I didn't publish all those in 1 year. As a matter of fact, when I was finishing medical school, maybe I only had 3 or 4 publications on my name when I was finishing medical school. So you can give that an average of 1 per year. But there are years that I've had more than 5 publications. So it depends on your level. So for now, I think you setting a goal that you can just do 1 per year, I think it's okay. And I'm saying at least 1 per year, which means if you have the capacity to do 2 or 3, fine. If you say 10 in a year, that might be on the higher side and it might stress you. So you just have to be realistic about that. One of the good things to do that will also help you to motivate you is once you've picked a particular research topic, do that research topic to completion. And completion means let that research be published. Someone once said, and it's true, that if it wasn't published, then it wasn't done. For example, that example I gave about management of pneumonia in children. Let's say you choose to undertake such a thing in your pediatrics rotation, and you come up with very good results. If you don't publish that results, nobody will know that you ever did such a thing. And so, as much as research is concerned, that particular research wasn't done. So the moment you publish it, then we know it has been researched, it is published. Someone else can reference it. If you don't publish, it can't be referenced. When you publish and you see that now this is a publication in my name, it gives you that motivation to even do more next time. It's a very important motivation in research. Lastly, I think it's also important that you evaluate your priorities. I've just told you that you're in medical school, you're training. Sooner or later, you'll be finishing. You'll be going different directions. What do you want to become? What kind of a doctor do you want to make? And in those places you want to go, what do you need to get there? In a number of those places that you want to go after medical school, you will need some publications in your name. Because I want to believe you don't just want to be a general practitioner after graduation. You become a general practitioner for life, somewhere in a county hospital in your village. I don't think that's what you want to do. I know you have ambitions. For you to achieve some of those ambitions, you will need some publications. And so research becomes a priority, even at this point in time. That's what I'm saying, evaluate your priority. There's some things you do that don't really add value to your life. It's good to watch a movie. You can say instead of watching 10 movies, I'll be watching 5. And the other time, I can engage in research. And you can just tell yourself that I'll be spending 30 minutes per day in research. Very good. Or I'll be spending 2 hours per week in research. A very good target. In one of my weekends of the month, it will just be fully for a particular research activity. That's still okay, whatever you do. And you know, there's some research where you just do a literature review. It's just about reading. You don't collect physical data from a lab somewhere. It's just literature review. What is the current management of COVID-19 infection? We don't know, maybe. So you read papers from China, where it began, you read papers from America, you read papers from Europe, find out what have they done? What are the current management for that infection. You can just do a literature review on that and find out success stories of people, the failures of other drugs, then give your parting shot. It's a literature review. So you can do it, it can be done. There's some common misconceptions that I usually see in undergraduates who want to participate in research. And one of them is that some of them believe, and maybe you are here, that this is just something for those who are doing masters or those who have PhD and the like. I think that's a wrong one. That's a misconception. Or those who have done BSc anatomy or BSc physiology, that is still a misconception. Yes, I agree that those who have done BSc anatomy are at an advantage because they have attended classes of research. Those who have done BSc physiology are at an advantage because they have attended classes in research and they have even participated in research. Those who are doing masters, it's even a requirement in their curriculum. Those who are doing PhD got there actually because of research. I agree it's true that those people have an added advantage. But where did they start? They started from zero. And that zero can be first year for you. So it is not limited to those with masters. It can be done even by undergraduates. Some people say research not your area because you don't like reading a lot, you don't like analysis, you don't even understand mathematics, those things about mode, median, standard deviation. You didn't like them anyway. Critical thinking is too expensive for your mind. I think those are misconceptions as well, because it's usually more of you are avoiding the unknown. Fear of the unknown is not a good thing. You are fearing what you actually don't know. You've not tried. When you try, you'll find that it can actually be easy. Some misconception is that research costs a lot of money. I've just told you that you can actually engage in research that is almost zero cost. And when I was telling you about teamwork, you can also teamwork with someone who can actually meet the costs. All those are teamwork. So someone has the money, they don't have the time. You have the time, you don't have the money. Why not engage together? It costs a lot of time, that's true. And you have other important things to do, that is true. But can be a misconception in the sense that you actually amplify the amount of time that research may take. There's some research that will not take a lot of your time. For example, how much time do you think it took me to collect data on the prevalence of the third coronary artery in a Kenyan population? If you are to just dissect 100 hearts, how long will it take you to just look for the prevalence of the artery? It won't take you more than a week. And I'm not saying you're spending 24 hours a day, maybe just 2 hours per day. It won't take you more than a week. So don't fear what you don't know. Some people say it requires me to think something very big. Those are issues to do with the pride, really. You don't have to do a very big thing. You don't have to invent another machine that can go to Mars. Then we say, oh, you did something very big. It can be as simple as just telling us that, by the way, if you mix, let's say, ampicillin with this other drug, you can manage this pneumonia better way than if you mix cloxacillin with this other drug. It can be as simple as telling us that, oh, this chloroquine, even if it's being used to manage COVID-19, it causes these other side effects, and you want to evaluate this. some people think that research findings will be ignored. Yes, they can be ignored. They will be ignored if you use a wrong method. If you used something that is not authentic, they'll be ignored, definitely. Or if you didn't publish them, definitely they'll be ignored and you'll be the first one to have ignored them. But if it is published and the methodology was right, why should it be ignored? Even it being just reference is an important thing in research. Even if someone, I've not found a cardiologist who comes and tell me, oh, I use the third coronary artery. I've never found even up to today. And I don't think I'm going to find. But how many papers have quoted that one? Many times I get notification, your paper has been quoted. Your paper has been cited. It is still important. So as I finish, I want to give you some practical ways in which you can engage in research. One of them is just to join research-based student bodies. And I believe many institutions have different research bodies. So there are research bodies in your institution. Just find out what are their names, how can you join and be part of them. I know some that meet once a month to just discuss the projects they're doing and they learn from one another. You can join them. It's a good thing. You can do some online courses in research and they don't take a lot of your time. You can decide, I'll be spending 30 minutes per day for the next 1 week to just learn about research. And you can have online links to research so that you just have basic understanding. You can help in data collection processes. For example, we know that the residents, those who are doing masters usually do some research and some of them just require help in data collection. You can help them collect the data. This is no big deal. You can help them collect the data. And you can even help them in the publication process. Then you become one of the co-authors in that paper, actually. Usually, the criteria for being a co-author is defined. You help in the writing of the manuscript, you qualify to become a co-author. You help in data collection, you qualify to become a co-author. You help in thinking critically through the study question, you qualify to become a co-author. Well, it will also depend on the kind of people you linked up with. But I think participating in data collection is important. And there are many master students who are usually just looking for people to help them collect the data. And those ones usually just have some pay, by the way, for those who want to know that part as well. You can attend scientific conferences. They're usually available. I know this year they've been affected by COVID, but they're usually available. You can attend scientific conferences. Lastly, you can join elective programs that have a research component, like the ones by Camry. In my time, there was something called HAPI. I don't know whether it's still there. There was one called Prime K. They had research components. They would expose us to research during our elective program. That time we used to go for elective in 4th year. I think right now, I don't know, for UN, I think you go on your 5th year. Yes, you can join them. You can also join other universities which have research components. And this help you to learn more about research. I think I'll stop there now. Oh, okay, there's that last one there I'd forgotten. If you're going to engage in research, you must ready to sacrifice something. So look at your schedule, see what you can sacrifice, see what is worth being sacrificed so that you create more time for your research. Thank you very much. I don't know how the programmer wants it, but yes, I will welcome questions, comments, clarifications. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Beda. I mean, I'm also inspired. This is amazing. Thank you very much. I hope everyone also was inspired by the short talk you gave us. And, you know, it is very much possible. You don't need to go through any program. You don't need to do a master's, you don't need to do a BSc, but just by being an undergraduate student, you can publish. So thank you for bringing that in light. We will be having questions, but before we have questions, I know research shows that the human brain can maximum concentrate for 60 minutes or even less, depending on which paper you've read. So we're going to have a short game, a really quick, not game, sorry, a really short word cloud where I'm going to present a Menti just now. So please answer. So it's going to be simple. Go to www.menti.com and use this code 561433 and tell us what barriers have you encountered to participating in research. So just enlighten us, even if you haven't, like, even if it's a thought barrier. Um, Tell us maybe any barriers that you as a person or as an undergraduate student have faced in research. So go to menti.com and type the code 561433. I see one looking for a mentor. Poor record keeping. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's also difficult to have access to some already published journals. Fear to start. Remember what Dr. Beda said, believe in yourself. Self-esteem, believe in yourself again. Yeah. See, plagiarism. Okay. Laziness. Yes, I guess all of us have that at some point. Balance. Yeah. Ignorance, but today you're well knowledgeable and you're sensitized about research, so that won't count as an excuse anymore. Time, yes, of course. We're always very busy, but as Dr. Beda said, you can always, if you plan your time well, you can always find time for research. Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is quite some answers. So thank you very much. At least now all of us are able to understand what are each other's barriers that we have faced or we will be facing in the future. But take Dr. Beda's wise words seriously, and you will not be able to face those barriers, and soon you'll be publishing. And now. We will have a question and answer session for Dr. Beda after we have our next speaker. So, yeah, if you thought that being an undergraduate student and research is impossible, let me tell you that is wrong. Today we have one of our very students who is my classmate, Nyambura Moroki, my classmate and a very good friend of mine indeed. So who is Nyambura Moroki? So Nyambura Moroki is a fourth year medical student at UON. She recently completed her bachelor's, the integrated course in medical physiology, which is basically a 1-year intense research-based program. So her current research interests are in reproductive physiology, wow, with a focus on fertility. And she studied the effects of metabolic syndrome on male fertility. Wow, that's interesting. Feel free to post some questions if you would like to find out more about her research. Nyambura is a global youth leader. Let me tell you one good thing about this. She is known worldwide among medical students around the world. That's how famous she is. She is she is the Beyonce when it comes to medical students around the world. She currently actually serves as the Africa Regional Development Assistant for IFMSA, and she was previously the National Public Health Officer from Sake. So in a few years' time, if you see her as the Minister of Health, don't be surprised. Yeah. She was also the former coordinator for USAID-funded One Health Central and East African, or SHARE, which is now known as AfroHone project in the College of Health Sciences at the University of Nairobi. So she's not only worked with medical students, she's worked with vets, she's worked with students from all over, from different career backgrounds as well. So wow, so she's full of inspiration. There's a lot to learn from her, and she's just a student like me and you, so she's not different from us. So she will be able to give her experience and just sensitize you on research. So pay keen attention. Trust me, there's a lot to learn from this amazing lady Nyambura Moroki. Nyambura Moroki, welcome.
Wow, thank you, Yas. I do not know how to start after such an introduction. I am so honored to be here. And that introduction did throw me off. Yas said I'm the Beyonce of medical students. I'll be adding that on my CV. Thanks, Yas. Okay, so my name is Nyambura Muroki, and I am a fourth-year medical student at the University of Nairobi. And today I'm so honored to be speaking alongside my friend and teacher, Dr. Beda. Thank you so much, Dr. Beda. You've actually said a lot of the things I had meant to say. But I'm excited to be here and speak about my research experience. As you can see, I'm following in the footsteps of Dr. Beda, and one day I'll have just as many credentials and accomplishments as him. So thank you for the presentation. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. I have like 7 slides I just want to share with you. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Just one moment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just be speaking on my experience and all the lessons that I've learned. So it's very experience specific. Okay, so, okay, there we go. Yes, so my name is Nyambura. As I said, I am in my 4th year of medical school, and I completed a BSc in medical physiology last year. I also work for Daktari Online, and I currently serve as the IFMSA Development Assistant for Africa. And I'll speak to some of the things I do during this presentation. So I'll just begin with a recount of my journey in research, how it began and where I am at now. So I joined medical school in 2015, and I knew I was going to enjoy the science of medicine. I enjoyed science a lot, but I was unsure about a career in medicine and what that would look like in terms of working in a clinic, being in theater all day. I was just unsure about all that. So from the get-go, I was looking to, as I built my certainty, I was looking to build skills in other areas outside of medicine. And that's how in my 2nd year of medical school, I stumbled upon a call for abstracts by the Surgical Society of Kenya. So it was themed around ethics in surgical practice, and one of the sub-themes was ethics in training. So I sat down and thought, ethics is interesting, but what can I really write on? And then I thought about ethics in donor funding on medical research in sub-Saharan Africa. So I had a broad idea of what I knew that donor funding, there must be some ethical issues around it, but I didn't know exactly what. So I did a desk review and I reached out to my lecturer, Dr. Moses Maseka, who was incredibly helpful, and he helped me. It went through several drafts until we finally submitted an abstract for this conference. I went to Kisumu to present for it and won an award on the best upcoming scientist. So I was in my second year, I was like, what? Yeah, I can write something and be awarded as best upcoming scientist. I was so encouraged, and it really motivated me to go on in research. But remember, it was just a desk review. So in my second and third year, so after I presented at that conference, I then collaborated with my friend Becky, who was in her sixth year when I was in my third year of med school. And we wrote something. We were curious about physician-assisted suicide. So we wrote an abstract on it, and just what happens, like we just submitted an abstract for it for the Kenya Physicians Association conference. And again, it was selected and we were invited to present it in Mombasa. So at this point, I was like, okay, this sounds like I'm just shooting in the air, not really having any focused studies. So I thought after my third year, why not actually build the skills, build technical skills in research and learn, like submit myself under somebody and learn the skills of research. So I applied for an intercalated BSc in medical physiology. When I joined, I didn't know what I was going to study. I didn't really have an idea on the specific question, although I knew I had enjoyed OBGYN, obstetrics and gynecology in my third year in junior clerkship. So I thought maybe reproductive physiology. So sorry for the typo, it's intercalated BSc. And what this is, for those who are not in UN medical school, it's a 1-year intense research program where you study basic sciences and develop a research question and write about it. Yeah, so that's what I did. So I studied the effect of a certain plant on male fertility in a rodent model of metabolic syndrome. So during this year, it was a very, very intense year, and I had to learn animal models. So I had rats, and I took care of those rats, and basically I was trying to get them fat. So with a high sugar, high fat diet. And then I was going to see what the effect of them being fat is on their fertility. And then using a certain plant called Cisampelus mucronata, which I had read about on a vet lecturer. So a vet lecturer had done a study, and she found out some plants that have an effect on male fertility, but they're used traditionally for male fertility, but no one quite knows about them. So I thought, okay, then we should find out if this plant actually works to improve fertility in men. And so that's what I worked on. I did the study, and then so it taught me a lot of technical skills. I had to check metabolic factors like OGTT, blood sugar levels. I did enzyme assays, including to just test the rate of antioxidant activity. I tested fertility markers like sperm count, sperm motility. And then went through different techniques, including I did some work in the physics department on Raman spectroscopy, which is a type of so you use light, and if you can see these are enzyme assays. Sorry, it's not very clear. Yeah, so I did that. I used the Raman spectroscopy to test the level of hormones in the blood of the rats. And then microscopy. So I did a lot. I mean, it was laborious, intense work, and I did all the work myself. So it's actually like physical labor. So this poster, after my BSc, my lecturer presented it in a conference in India, and that's a poster that I've projected for you right now. So what's the research process? Dr. Beda has spoken to a lot of these points, so I will not belabor, but basically develop a question, and it should be a broad question. The way I said, I had an interest in reproductive physiology. Then I also wanted to do something in metabolic like understand metabolic activity. So when I did, I narrowed it down and framed a question. And I did that through literature review and just finding out what's the knowledge, what's the current knowledge, what do people know now, what are the gaps in knowledge, and how can I fill them? And then I told you I found a paper that had been written by a vet lecturer, but not the extensive work on it had not been done. So then I created a research design with the help of my supervisor, my incredible supervisor, Dr. Wawero, who I'll be speaking about, and then the work. So that part for finding a question, that's all fun until you reach the work. And that's where the sweat, the blood, and the tears all happen. So it's a very, so I'll just say that the process is not the same. So this process is specific to my experience in my BSc. It's based on my BSc. However, there's certain, but this is generally the framework. But then you don't have to be doing basic science research, like in the lab at the bench. You can be doing a desktop review. It can be issuing a questionnaire. And now all of those are ways to collect data. It can also be clinical studies, which Dr. Beda spoke about. Okay, so this has been the process and what my experience has been. So there's certain lessons that I've gotten from all this experience. So it's spanning around 3 years. So you can imagine it's not like they're not deep lessons, and some of them I keep changing it keeps evolving as I grow. But I picked out 6 of the major lessons I've learned from this process, which I will be sharing with you. Okay, so the first one is start where you are with the questions you have. So the famous quote is start where you are with what you have. But because we're speaking about research, it's the questions you have. So don't wait to be an expert. Start just, and Dr. Beda has stressed on this, just start at the bottom of the barrel. Be happy to collect data, be happy to do the hard work, be happy to be last author in a paper. Just really start. If you only have a computer and your brain, right, do a desk review like I did. But the idea is to really just start. I was also a research assistant. I served in Sake as the National Public Health Officer, and during that time I met Dr. Washira, who is the founder of Emergency Medicine Kenya Foundation, and he was trying to map out the emergency centers in public health facilities around Kenya. So in my role as National Public Health Officer, I collaborated with him to find research assistants among medical students. So we did that work, but part of me finding the research assistant, I was also a research assistant. And then I went to Tarakanidi inside the counties, just inside to see, I went inside to see what these emergency centers look like. So yeah, be willing to get your hands dirty. Anyone who is a renowned researcher started at the bottom. Then the next lesson is skills and hard work beats talent any day. So a lot of us like to say, oh my gosh, I want to find my passion. I want to impact the world. I think from my experience, that's great, but focus on building your skills. And that's so don't wait to find that it's something you're so passionate about. Do anything, literally anything your hands find to do. Get involved and be willing to put in the hard work. So it doesn't have to be something that you have a plan for, like a straight, or like you've lined up your life in that you want to do this and this and this. Just if you find a registrar who is doing work in burns, for instance, in plastic surgery, offer to do it. It's not gonna be pretty. It's going to be, burns don't smell very nice, but offer to do it and just dig in. And none of your experience is a waste. So I did mention that I did a desk review on ethics. So last year, I applied for an internship at the World Medical Association in Geneva. And the World Medical Association is basically the authority on bioethics in the world. So that was what I used in my application, and I got it. And I spent 3 months in Geneva from November last year until March, last 3 months, yeah, with a break in between. Yeah, so there's no experience that you go through that will be wasted. So anything that your hands find to do, again, just do it. Then science is not as glamorous as it seems. That's been a bitter pill to swallow, but it's true. We hear people talk about the Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine. In fact, when we all joined BSc in physiology, my classmates and I were like, that's the goal for us. We want to win Nobel Prizes in physiology. But that's nice. But no one tells you that it's hard work. It's such hard work. There's times when you have to repeat different data collection methods 1,001 times because you're just getting strange results. There are tests that you thought would work or were good for your design, but you have to change your mind about them. I mean, there's things that you just have to, are not linear, and I'll talk about that. Yeah, so there's people who take years to study just 20 data points. And there's a famous story about Thomas Edison that we all know about, how he tried 1,001 times to invent the light bulb, but he only found it on the 1,001 time. Basically, it takes a long time. So you have to build resilience and be willing to put in the work for the glamour to come. Okay, then research is not a linear journey. So be open to changing your mind. You might start research on, like me, reproductive physiology, then later think, oh my gosh, I think I'm interested in surgery. So you follow a different path in surgery, and that's okay. Be open to stumbling upon new exciting projects. I am now not sure I want to focus on basic sciences. I would like to get involved in clinical studies on fertility, both in men and in women. I'm also interested in women in global health and women in medicine, and just a whole women space. And I'm also interested in digital health and telemedicine as a result of my work. So yeah, I'm looking to get involved in research projects in those areas. So I'm not really fixed on whatever opportunities come my way right now. I mean, anything that interests me in that way, I'll be happy to change. And it's the same with research results. They're not always, or research methods. It's not always a linear way approach. Sometimes things just change, and that's the learning. It's a learning curve. That's what it is. Then the next lesson and the last two lessons are probably for me the most important. Get involved and speak to people. So build your network and your reputation. Get involved in MSAKE, get involved in REPUB and REMED, and there's a lot of research clubs now that people are involved in. So get involved. And there's also structured mentorship programs like MSAKE has just introduced one with KEDU, the Kenya Doctors in the US. Please get involved in those things so that you can build your network and build your reputation. Let people know about you, put yourself out there. But the thing about that is the more you do that, the more responsibility you have on your part, because you will need to deliver and complete tasks. And you need to, anything you commit to do, you actually have to complete it. And I think it's something famous that my friends and I say, that work attracts work. So if you do work and you do a good job, it will attract more work. Then finally, mentorship and collaboration. I'll give us the story about these two people on the pictures I am with. Mentorship is everything. This picture is with my supervisor, Dr. Wawiro, who is an incredible man and my good friend. He was really my lifeline during my year in BSc, and he was a wonderful mentor. So the thing about mentorship, and we had in the mentee, someone was asking, how do I get a mentor? And that's a popular question. So I've been rereading Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And one of the things she says is the thing of asking, will you be my mentor? Like, you go attend an event and someone speaks, and then after the event you approach them and you're like, will you be my mentor? And she says that's kind of like asking, will you marry me on the first date? So don't do it. The thing about mentorship is that people mentor people that they see something good in. And that's been our experience. That whenever you're involved in something and you're working, someone would see that and like, and be like, hey, I want to see that thing in that person grow. So mentors are actually found when you're working. And then when you find these mentors, build relationships, solid relationships with them, so that it's just not a thing of you taking, but it's something where you're being helpful as well. Volunteer to help them in their projects, ask insightful questions that will help them in their work as well. And then you have to exude excellence. So I'll speak about this lady. This lady is a lady I really, really look up to. Her name is Dr. Rupa Dutt. She's the founder of Women in Global Health. So I found on the internet, I found something that the Women in Global Health Germany had done, and it was basically just 200. They put together 200 women who are in global health, so in science, in doctors, nurses, and they put a document together. And I thought, wow, that's so nice. So I sent an email to Professor Ilona Kickbush, who is like the queen of global health. And I didn't think she would respond, but she did. And then she eventually introduced me to Women in Global, the founder of Women in Global Health, who I met and I'm in touch with now. And this was in Geneva. So reach out to people, get involved, don't be afraid to speak to people and allow people to know you and what you're doing. Just put yourself out there. But the thing about it is that you have to deliver and basically not build your name on hype. Don't just be about hype, but have some substance. So the realities, I guess this is what we call challenges, but I wanted to sort of give it a positive spin. These are the challenges, but we are calling them the realities. So getting your foot in the door and just starting. I think that's a difficult thing, because how do you start? And many of us ask the question, how do you start? What do you start with? But the thing about it is just start, really start with whatever you have and then grow on, build on it. Don't start and just be stagnant in the same space. Like, you can't be doing desktop reviews for 5 years. Like, keep evolving and building yourself to the level that you want to be. So see what you want to become and then grow it. Then the challenge, the reality of funding. Funding is a difficult thing. So I had a really good supervisor who helped me a lot in that way. It's expensive, but again, Dr. Beda said that not you start with what you have and then you build on it. And then as you grow in research, you'll be able to write grants, and the money, just the same way work attracts work, even more research will attract more funding. Then publishing, that's a challenge. I still haven't managed to, I haven't published, but I've taken the challenge Dr. Beda has given us of 1 publication per year. I think the challenge with this is, for me, has been wanting to publish in a high impact journal as opposed to just publishing. And maybe Dr. Beda can speak to that again. I still haven't managed to navigate around it. So publishing is a real issue. And so REPUB has come with, REPUB is a journal that Misake is working on. And I'm sure that they'll be able to change this narrative and help young doctors in training learn how to publish and be able to publish. And time and balance, use your time well. Also, holidays are a great way to start. The first desk review I did was during the strike. So whenever, even now during COVID, is a wonderful time to write something. Then the imposter syndrome. This one is also another one I'm still navigating around. Even just agreeing to do this presentation and just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm such a fraud. Like these people will find out that I'm not as good as I seem. So that's, I think a lot of young people, and especially in research, and women as well, face that. But that's something you just have to constantly speak to yourself about and tell yourself, you belong to be in the spaces that you are in, and just own your space and take up that space that you find yourself in, and don't shrivel whenever there's I'm also speaking to myself right now, by the way. Yeah, so just really just take up space and speak to yourself kindly and positively. Okay, so finally, this is my last slide. Practical tips. I think learning how to write. Writing, I cannot even say this more. I do a bit of, especially with my IFMSA work, I do quite a bit of reviewing people's like applications, and I just realized what people do not know how to write. So if anything, just learn how to write. And I'm glad Dr. Beda talked about Coursera. There's a wonderful a course on scientific writing. I really highly recommend it. We did it as in our BSc year, and I really recommend it. And it helped me even now with just writing that's not scientific. Yeah, so even if you're not interested in writing for research, but writing is such an important skill, and I really think you should write. You should learn how to write and practice it. Then send cold emails. If there's anyone that you see and you look up to and you admire and you're doing something in their area, remember it's important that you've started working on it. Send cold emails. People actually are looking for young, especially young Africans. And then if you're a woman also, that's a plus. But yeah, people are really looking for young people to work with. And now there's a whole thing about decolonizing research, decolonizing global health. So people are saying that, how can you write a paper on malaria in Busia County, and then all the authors are white or Caucasian or from the West? So people are now saying we need to have first author as people from Africa. So we literally are in a haven where people are interested in working with young people from what they used to call the global South. And then volunteer to help. Dr. Beda has spoken about that. Just put yourself out there, ask people, do you need any help? What project are you working on? How can I help? Misake is always looking for volunteers. Right now, they did a COVID-19, as part of the COVID-19 task force, they're doing some research, and it's been difficult to find people to help. So put yourself in situations where you're building skills. And then attend conferences as a rapporteur. You get to meet wonderful people and build great networks. Yeah, so in conclusion, that picture is of me and my family the day that I handed in the final draft of my work for BSc. And you can see it was a big deal because they had seen the tears. Yeah, so in conclusion, I think just start. Research is an iterative process. You start with what you have and you build on the place that you are at. And things just sort of work out the more that you put yourself and you apply yourself. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'll be more than happy to offer any guidance. Please reach out. And those are my contacts, and I look forward to interacting with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nyambura and Dr. Beda as well. That has been such an informative session, and we've gotten really encouraged and inspired to, participate in research even as undergraduates. So we've been receiving a few questions. Thank you so much for everyone who has attended today's session, all the budding researchers. We see you and we really appreciate you taking time to join us this afternoon. I can see that most of the questions have already been answered on the Q&A chat box. However, even on our YouTube live chat, there are some questions that maybe I can start with this. There's Peter Mason who is asking for a clarification on interdisciplinary play in research. Is there a specific way to go about it? So Peter Mason is asking for clarification on interdisciplinary play in research, and is there a specific way to go about it? So perhaps I can direct this question to Dr. Beda, if you're still with us. you can answer that question. And if there are any additional questions, please send them to the Q&A chat box. This is the Q&A session. Yes.
Okay, can address that, and I can also address the question that Nyambura also raised. So with regard to interdisciplinary play, I want to imagine the issue here is that there's a topic that you have that cuts across different disciplines. For example, cutting across medicine, cutting across surgery, maybe radiology, and the like. Usually, there's still a role of that. What you need to do is just to identify a key person in those various disciplines. As long as you can agree to form a team, you can agree to do a research. So that's the point. The question that Nyambura raised about the need to publish in high impact journals, that is an okay need. I think we just need to learn to balance. Let's talk reality. The reality is that those journals that are high impact didn't start there. They started at some point. The other reality is that not all your articles will be high end. That's a reality. And so if you wait for publishing all your papers in high impact journal, you may never start. Because when you start at the beginning, maybe your paper will not be very high end as such, or it may take very long to be published in those high end journals. So what I usually suggest and what I do is that mine, I spread them across the board. After I've done one, I read it and I feel this one I can send to this journal. After I've read another one, after I've written another one, I feel this one I'll take to this particular journal. For example, I can say this one I'll take to Anatomy Journal of Africa, or this Journal of Surgery for in African continent. I can also decide this one I'll take to Clinical Anatomy. It's a journal, or International Journal of Anatomic Variations. Whatever journal, whatever thing, I think just spread it out. The good thing about it these days is that, this thing about impact was a very key thing previously, where people used to buy the journals and read. Right now, journals are online, and so they have universal access. So whether a journal is low impact or high impact, your paper will be read. That's a good thing about it.
Wow, thank you for that, Dr. Beda. So remember, whether the journal is high impact or low impact, your paper will be read. We are having another question from Kiprono Tony. Now he's asking, do you think we have a research gap in Africa? If yes, how can we as students go about informing our universities about that? Do you think we have a research gap in Africa? And if yes, how can we as students go about informing our universities about this? Nyambura, do you think you can tackle this question?
Thank you, Tony. That's an insightful question on whether we can inform our universities about the research gaps in Africa. So I'm not sure if your question is how they can improve, how our universities can, why are we informing the universities? Because I think the gap is, the universities have a big part to play, but just everyone in an academic institution should be contributing to the body of knowledge that exists already. So yes, we do have a research gap in Africa. And then how as students we can inform our universities. So under MSACE, there's the Standing Committee on Medical Education. And I can speak about Africa because that's where I work. I know there's schools in Africa where they literally are part of building the curriculum of their medical schools. And students are involved actively in their medical education. So through SCOMI, if we can strengthen the current structures that exist already, it would be really good for students to find a way to participate and mobilize around any issues around medical education. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nyambura. And you are really our inspiration as students, you know, as an undergraduate, someone who is really active when it comes to research, you know, active when it comes to even mentoring other students, because there is a lot that we can learn from, you know, the more experienced mentors, but there's also a lot that we can learn from you. And thank you for, you know, presenting yourself to just be that accessible voice. Thank you so much, Nyambura. And there's so many people in the chat box appreciating you and just what you do. So please feel validated because you deserve it. Okay, now we have a question from Jimmy Njoroge. I would request the host to kindly unmute him. He had a question that I believe he can ask it live. Jimmy Njoroge. Has he been unmuted? Okay. Seems this. Yes.
As you unmute him, Nyambura can address this question from Tim Brand in the Q&A.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it. Tim Brand. Okay, a question for Nyambura. So I believe many of us students would like to finish our 6 years in school with all the opportunities that you have been able to have in research. Would you say that with putting yourself out there, you will end up deferring medical school so as to accomplish them? And if so, how do you deal with that as an individual? Such a potent question. What are your thoughts, Nyambura?
Thank you, team, for asking that question. So I should have mentioned that for the intercalated BSc, and I know team is not in University of Nairobi. Oh, he says he's in Maseno, yeah. So for intercalated BSc, you have to take a year out of medical school and focus on research. So yes, I did defer a year of medical school. And do you have to do an intercalated BSc? I don't think so. You don't have to take the year off. However, as Dr. Beda said, you need sacrifice for any, to do research in any space. You have to sacrifice time, you have to sacrifice money, you have to sacrifice going out with your friends. So this is, I think 1 year for me in how I saw it was 1 year in the grand scheme of things compared to all the skills I learned, the networks I built, especially getting a mentor was a big thing for me. So I think 1 year is not much in the grand scheme of things. So you don't really have to, but sacrifice.
The grand scheme of things. Thank you so much for mentioning that, and just the understanding that later on, all the skills that you've learned will even surpass the sacrifice that you made. So the benefit is worth the cost. Thank you so much for that. Jimmy Njoroge, I don't know if you're ready now. You can ask your question. Perfect. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Beda and Nyambura, for your amazing sessions. I am really inspired. I'm a second year in the University of Nairobi, and my question regarding research was, in many research papers, particularly those with multiple authors, they usually have this segment called conflict of interest. So what is the relevance of conflict of interest to research? Is it capturing the competitiveness of scientists participating in a particular research project, or what is its relevance and how does it affect research as a whole?
Thank you for your question, Dr. Beda. You can give us your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. As usual, he usually has difficult questions. I know him. Anyway, so with regard to conflict of research, the reason why conflict of research is usually put is so that we're able to validate the research results that have been posted by a particular article against the funding authority most of the time. That is the issue. For example, if the example I gave you when I was giving you this thing about a particular antibiotic with pneumonia. For example, if let's say a particular company that is manufacturing a particular drug A is the one that is funding that project, and then your result says drug A is very excellent. The conflict of interest there is that this project was actually funded by this particular industry. So there's a particular industry that is interested in seeing that that drug is actually good. Yet the results is also suggesting that that drug is good. So that's a conflict of interest that need to be declared, so that whoever is reading the article need to again evaluate that finding with other research articles to find out whether it's actually a consistent finding or these guys are just marketing their product. So that's the essence of conflict of interest.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that explanation, Dr. Beda. And there's also another question here. Perhaps I could pose it to Yasser if he's still on the call. Lillian Kitonga is asking, how can I volunteer to the MSACE task force? I think perhaps she means the research that's going on with the MSACE task force. So is that still a possibility? How can she apply, or how can she get involved in the MSACE task force and the research that's going on?
Thank you very much, Lillian, for that question. At the moment, the research has not been fully approved. So once it's fully approved and you will need some help, there will be a call and it will be sent out to all the groups. Regarding opportunities in Sake, those ones are usually sent out in your class group. So always check them out here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yasser. I believe we don't have any other questions. The rest that were asked have been answered very satisfactorily in the Q&A chat box. Thank you so much, Dr. Beda, for taking your time to be with us today and to answer all those questions that were submitted earlier. I believe I will now pass the baton over to my colleague, Dagan, to take us through the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. So my name is Gagandi Pogal, and I'm a fourth-year medical student from Nairobi University, and I'm also the campus representative for REPUB. So if you're inspired to conduct your own research after listening to our wonderful speakers and you're not sure where next, then I'm here with some information for us. We've been hearing about the REPUB project throughout this session. So what is the REPUB project? The REPUB project is a partnership between Medical Students Association of Kenya and the Daktari Online Company, the first in the region to focus on research capacity building while providing a free publication journal for healthcare students. As REPUB, we believe that today's research is tomorrow's medicine, and so every healthcare student has the right to contribute to existing knowledge pools, like we've been told so far by our speakers. So even if your first step is wanting to learn about research, we will help you find these answers and skills. And as we've seen in the Menti, a lot of us are wondering about mentorship being a hurdle for us to conduct our research. So as REPUB, we guide you from scratch through our mentorship program and ensure you're equipped with the necessary tools to conduct your research. Even if it's simple things like formulating a research question, we're able to help you. Our mentorship program will soon be developed and that is under development and will be rolled out soon. So like Nyambura said, publishing is important and a real challenge. And oftentimes as undergraduate students, we tend to worry that our research may not be significantly recognized or we may not be able to publish our work. I'd like to tell you that there's no reason for you to believe that. Your work can equally contribute to the scientific community. With REPUB, we provide the first student-centered healthcare journal, which has a structured submission platform and a stringent and professional peer review process to allow you to publish and access quality information. You can publish your research work on our open access journal at absolutely no cost. We understand that the cost of publishing is high, so we ensure no student will miss out on the opportunity to publish due to inaffordability. If you have any questions and you would want any further information on Repub, please contact myself or Yasser for further help. With that, I'd now like to pass it back to Ruby to just talk about SCORI. She will be representing Harry, who is the local officer at UON for SCORI. Ruby?
Thank you so much, Gagan, for that excellent explanation about Repub and the amazing, amazing work that they're doing. Please be sure to plug in. If you're a student interested in research, this is your opportunity. Everything has been presented to you. Take that leap of faith and go ahead. As Gagandeep has mentioned, I am standing in for Elisha Hari, who is the local officer at UN for SCORI. However, he's not able to make it today because of some network difficulties. However, I'd just like to mention that the Medical Students Association of Kenya, MSAKE, is a non-political, non-religious organization that represents all medical students in Kenya through the Medical Students Association. So for example, we have AMSUN for the University of Nairobi, and MSAKE has been in operation since 2007. MSAKE is also a national member organization in the International Federation of Medical Students Association, that's IFMSA. And this membership has exposed medical students in Kenya to the various international IFMSA projects and activities. So some of these activities include research exchanges, which are offered by the IFMSA Standing Committee on Research Exchanges, or SCORI for short. Since it is almost impossible to organize such exchanges during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic, the committee has resorted to organizing webinars and other related activities to ensure continual running of the association's activities. Therefore, we have the privilege of being able to have the best of biomedical research mentors and colleagues, such as Dr. Beda and Ms. Nyambura, to guide us through this process. And we believe that you have enjoyed this session and learned a lot and just been inspired to begin your journey in research. I believe there is one additional question that has just come in the Q&A chat box. Perhaps if you'll allow me, Dr. Beda, to present this question. It came in a bit late, but I believe it's quite relevant. So Anne Kima is asking, I'd like to ask about research and plagiarism. Is there a fine line, and when do you cross it, especially when citing and building upon existing research? So she's asking about research and plagiarism. The question is there a fine line, and when do you cross it, especially when citing and building upon existing research? What are your thoughts, Dr. Beda?
So about fine line, there is no fine line because of the fact that knowledge is something that's built from one point to another. And the plagiarism test that we have online usually look for matching words. So for example, there are some common phrases that it's difficult to run away from. For example, mechanism of action of ampicillin. Most likely that phrase has been used by somebody else in the past. Whether you read the article, you didn't read that article. So when you use such a phrase in your article, when you take it for plagiarism test, it will pick that it has been used somewhere, and it might even give you a reference. Then it will say you copied from there. So you can't really have a zero match because of those realities. But there are some tried and tested levels of similarity that has been shown that beyond which seems like someone was really copying a lot. Again, those similarity percentages are usually they're defined based on different institutions. For example, for Kenyatta National Hospital, University of Nairobi Ethics and Research Committee, they use 21% for undergraduates and perhaps 16% for postgraduates, and maybe even 10% for those doing PhD. So there is no fine line. But you need to understand the reason why these plagiarism tests are there. They're there so that you become original in your description. Otherwise, you'll just be copy-pasting someone's work and putting there, you'll not be learning. So I like them for their importance, that they help you to actually be original in yourself, in the understanding that you are not really reinventing a wheel in research, but that you're building on the wheel that has already been invented.
Thank you so much for that answer, Dr. Beda. So as he has mentioned, be original, even as we are not trying to reinvent the wheel, but to build on the wheel that has already been invented. Thank you so much. And once more, thank you so much for everyone who has attended and all your engagement. We really, really have had a lovely session. I'll now pass it over to my colleague, Dagan, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you to everyone. With this, we've reached the end of our session. So we thank all of you first for being here. If it wasn't for all of you, this would not have been possible today. On behalf of myself, Yasser, and Harry, I would like to thank Dr. Beda for graciously accepting and taking the time out to be our speaker and motivating all of us to step into the world of research. He was, in fact, the first person to teach me about research. I'd like to thank Nyambura for coming on board and sharing her experience as a student researcher and how she was able to believe in herself. And as she said, start where you are with all the questions you have. So just to, like how Ruby said, as undergraduate students, we're truly inspired by Nyambura, and we would hope to be the same going forward. I'm sure all of us agree that they have been wonderful speakers and have inspired us to keep evolving and set goals going forward. I'd also like to thank Repub, Scori, and Amsun for being our pillars in organizing this webinar and ensuring its smooth running. Thank you to Daktari Online for providing this platform and all the technical assistance we would not be able to deliver without your support. I'd like to thank the team, Harry and Yasser, for all the work done behind the scenes towards this webinar. Thank you to Ruby for moderating this session beautifully and handling our question and answer and everything really well. As we conclude today's session, I'd like us to look at research as not just a field for postgraduates and beyond. We're all capable of conducting our own studies, as has been said by our speakers. There's something for all of us in this field. With that, have a great weekend ahead, and thank you for joining us today. Stay safe. Goodbye.